those laughing days, there was something on my mind that I couldn't erase. It was plaguing my mind. My past is heavy and is not going away. My past is heavy and is not. All I saw was red, red. My ledger was red for the debt that I couldn't repay. I was dead, 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 dead in my sleep. Didn't know if I could go on tomorrow. The lamb has taken my place, and now my debt is paid. My debt is paid in full. My chains are all gone. The only thing left to do is pick up my cross and follow you, yeah. Oh, for who the sun sets free is free indeed. You, we have everything we need. We are like the waves, even though we're free. We like our old ways. We like our old ways. I have made my bed, bed, made my bed with all the wrongs that I have committed. I do want to do, but I know that I'm already forgiven. The Lamb has taken my place, and now my debt is paid.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live experience here on the Boston Chris Show. This is episode 18 of Tunesday Tuesday with yours truly, Boston Chris. And for the next hour and a half or so, we're going to be listening to some fabulous music, some new, some not new. And hopefully you guys will learn of a new artist that you're going to fall in love with tonight on tonight's show. We are very excited to have Alex O'Brien joining us, a singer-songwriter who will be talking about their new song, and he's with a band called Meeting of the Mimes. And so he'll be joining me here momentarily to talk about their new song, which is called Remember Me. We'll feature the song and a song that Alex also wants to feature from a different artist. And so we'll do all of that, followed by another hour or so of music, hour and a half. We have a bunch of tributes this week. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of really talented artists that have passed away over the last week. So we'll be tributing a lot of people. Perhaps you guys don't even know that these folks have passed away, and you'll learn about that and learn about some awesome people that are no longer with us. If you are tuning into this on YouTube later on and you're only here for the interview and you'd like to check out the entire recap, you can click the link below to find the entire recap to episode 18. If you'd like to see all the other stuff I have going on, we are at The Boston Chris Show everywhere, all over the interwebs. So make sure you're following along with everything we have going on. And without any further ado, we're going to get over and chat with Alex O'Brien from the Meeting of the Mimes. Let's get over there and talk to him. Welcome in, Alex. How are you tonight, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. We were just playing your song Red Ledger as our intro.
Oh, jeez.
which I love. I love the vibe in that song. So where are you from originally?
I'm Wisconsin born and bred, so
Is that where you're at now?
yes. Yep.
Oh.
I have the most Wisconsin job. I work for the Center for Dairy Research.
you research cheese, is that right?
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yep.
Now, what does the job entail? I'm just kind of kidding, but yeah, what do you have to do as a dairy researcher?
So I'm like the food safety guy. So I help try to make cheese, or I basically make videos and do audits and teach people how to make cheese safely. That's what I do.
So, do you like cheese, or are you done with it just because it's
Oh
your
my
job?
gosh. It's it's a perfect match in heaven. I probably consume 5 times as much as the average human does of cheese in a year. So
That's funny. I have a son that's pescatarian, and he loves cheese. Like that's all he eats is cheese. So, uh,
it's good for you.
so maybe you need to hire him. I'll send him up there.
There you go.
Now let's get into the music. I had no idea that was your job. That's incredible. Tell us a little about Meeting of the Mimes. I love the name of the band, first of all. So I got to know the origins of the name and kind of tell us what your vibe is.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the whole name or the moniker came from, like everyone has like a band name they come up with, and then they put their stuff on Spotify, right? But then there's like 10 to 20 other band names like that. Like for
Hmm.
example, like 2 years ago, I had just put out some music and I met someone and they're like, "Hey, we got our band too on Spotify. The band name's Fox." And then I look for it and there's like literally
Yeah.
200
Good
other
luck.
bands.
Hmm.
There's only one meeting of the Mimes.
Yep.
And really where it came from is it's a play on words, meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you got your smartest people all getting in the same room. But if you had like a boardroom of mimes just trying to communicate, I think that would be super hilarious. But it ended up being more of a reality because I'm basically a one man show. I do have a lot of help from my producer, who's actually in the United Kingdom. So he sings for me and he produces pretty much every one of my songs. So we actually have only spoken a total of 30 minutes. Uh
Wow.
and everything is basically through, I'm like, "Hey, can you do this a little bit here or there through email?" So like it's um yeah, it kind of, instead of just being a moniker, it actually became what I did. Like we speak without talking. So
And so this guy is your singer as well. He's the vocals.
yep, yep.
Wow. And you've only spoken to him 30 minutes. So who's writing the lyrics? Is he writing them or are you?
So 95% of the lyrics are from me. And then there'll be like one or two places here throughout the song or any one of my songs that he adds something in there. I'm like, that's much better than what I originally had. Um, Yeah, so it's about 90 to 95% is my content, and I'll do like, like, hey, this is the key that it should be in, and I'll play like guitar. So like most of that, the song that I shared with you guys, the Remember Me song, is actually him, but I'm not a piano player,
Mhm.
so I'm like literally on GarageBand, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is what I want you to do. And what I had, I thought it sounded pretty good. And then I gave it to him, and he gave me the rough draft. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like better than what I originally had. I mean, I actually am still like the first 5 to 20 seconds of the song. That's me. Um, but everything else, I composed, and he's like, yeah, I'll make it a little bit better.
So this is essentially a 21st century project. Basically, it's all
Yeah.
remotely done, and you're not. Do you perform live?
I have performed live once. It makes it a little bit harder when you're a one man show. I've got friends that play instruments and stuff, but they're all busy. So I mostly play acoustic sets. Just with my acoustic
Right,
guitar.
right. Of course, that's so interesting. So when I first saw the name of the band, Meeting of the Mimes, I was almost offended that there was lyrics. Like I was like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be
Uh,
mimes. They're not supposed to
it's
be
supposed
able
to
to
be instrumental.
speak. Yeah.
against the rules.
Uh,
Yeah.
so so just be prepared for that now. Like people are going to be saying that no, there shouldn't be any lyrics here, just because of the name of the band. Um,
Right.
so
But yeah.
what's the music scene like where you're from? Not that it really matters, because again, this is a 21st century thing. You're really doing all of this remotely and on the internet. But what's it like around where you are?
I mean, there's a lot of, coffee shops, that you can play, a lot of cool venues in Madison, Wisconsin. But really, I'm kind of in a different niche, and really, like, I do it more of like I call it a ministry, and some people are like, "Oh, what does that mean?" Um, but it's just more of like an encouragement. If I were to put it in more modern context from a Christian standpoint,
Right.
because I'm a born again Christian, and I want to encourage others, but mostly I did it for my family. Because basically I kind of really got into recording music within the past almost like just 2 years ago. Um,
So post
and
pandemic, essentially.
post pandemic, yep. And I've played music for a long time, but yeah, I just had like, like a procedure done recently, and I was like, I was kind of scared going into it. I'd never had a procedure done before, and it was pretty low risk. Like, hey, you're not gonna die, by doing this. But it made me think. I'm like, what if this was like the last time, I was alive? Like, would I be happy with what I put out? Uh, and that made me go on this journey of like, I want to create things that last, and it's really hard to create things, like. Um, ideas and procure them and basically give them to later generations. So like this is mostly for my kids
Yeah.
to be able to share very important things to me, uh, and something that you can actually sing over and over again. Where that's how you kind of remember stuff. So that's why I got into this, and it's not necessarily to perform. Although I do love performing. I perform at my church, at least once a month or something, doing the bass guitar. But mostly it's for very particular times in need.
Mhm.
Like maybe people are, hey, it's a rough spot in life you're dealing with. You've been dealt some pretty bad cards. How do you deal with joy? Like I believe that uh, it's a commandment to be joyful
Mhm.
in all circumstances. Uh, and that is something that's very easy to say and very hard to do. So like, I've got a song about that coming out, but and kind of just how personifying feelings, and that's really what the song that I gave you is the Remember Me song
Yeah.
is personifying what I felt like, and really more about the hope on the other side, because
Yeah.
like uh, some people believe that, I do. I believe it very strongly, and it gives hope. I think that's what differentiates um, I think Christians from several other beliefs, right? Is hope for after. What's after all of this? So, that's kind of what my vibe's about. So I, I when I make music, I don't have a lot of rules. So you were listening to Red Ledger. That is a metal song.
Yes.
that
Right.
is that is the exact opposite spectrum of
Remember Me,
remember
and
me.
that's why I
Which
chose it. That's why I chose it, just as the intro.
yeah.
Has your music always been Christian based, or have you also kind of dabbled in the secular side of things as well?
I shared with you a performer, or one of my favorite musicians of all time is John Foreman,
Right.
and he does not believe in such thing as Christian music. He doesn't believe it exists, in the sense of like, like, hey, I'm gonna drive in my Christian car
Hmm.
to go to my Christian work. It's like, no, like you can, in the Bible it says like make a joyful noise unto the Lord, and that means hey, like it doesn't necessarily have to have lyrics that are like Jesus this, Jesus that. In fact, only one of my songs actually names Jesus in it. uh it's all, from a perspective of like what is a what is pure, what is good, what are some good things to think about, right? I'm not singing about one night stands or anything like
Right,
that.
right.
More like, okay, what's hey, I'm going to be joyful in all circumstances. Hey, I'm going to, fight for love. I'm going to, there's one song about divorce that I have, and it's like, hey, maybe one side of the equation is not for it. I'm going to fight for this love,
Mhm.
so that's more of what I would say. I wouldn't say like, I'm like a Christian artist necessarily, but I'm an artist that is a Christian that makes music. And I don't put any curse words or anything like that because honestly, I don't think it needs to be there.
Mhm.
But it's mostly just positive, you know.
Right. Do you feel like you're bound by that? Does that stifle the creativity at any point? Like, if there's a certain river you want to travel down, do you feel like sometimes the path can be blocked because of, I don't know, unspoken rules or anything with that? You know what I mean?
That's a great question. And I think it actually is more like, some people are like, oh man, I wish I could curse. But it's like with poetry, you're actually if you're using more words that I feel it's more difficult to find more words for the same thing instead of using one word like, oh, f this, right? It's
Hmm.
like, or you could say curse that, like there's just so many more. It's harder to find more words to say one thing than like keep saying that. Like, so like from a cursing standpoint, like I don't think it's difficult. um, but for me, I've never been like, oh man, I wish I could talk about that, because this is just more like a medium of like, okay, how do I feel about
Right.
this? Like, how do I feel about death? How do I feel about love lost? How do I feel about falling in love with my wife or seeing my kids grow up?
Hmm.
Right? It's just a medium, to discuss thoughts and just in a different way of instead of like preaching,
Right.
right?
No, I get what you're saying, but like, just a kind of the most famous probably version of this. Taylor Swift is not a Christian artist, but she is an artist who's a Christian. And sometimes her creative process will bring you to an area that's not necessarily based in faith, right? Like she has cuss words, but if the message needs to be delivered that strongly, she feels like not stifling her creative process to get to that ultimate destination. And she has found a way to, I don't want to say compromise with her faith, but it's almost to that point where she has to do that in order to get the message across. Otherwise, the song doesn't get, deliver what she needs it to deliver. And that can be a big inner struggle between your Christianity and your creativity. You know what I mean? So, um,
Yeah, and I think there's two sides of the too, because like, I have no idea where she is with her faith, right? But like, the more you become like a Christian, the more, or not necessarily a Christian, but someone that follows Jesus, right? You're going to like and love the same things that he did, right? So like, you're not going to really want to talk about certain things because you're like, it doesn't even appeal to me,
mhm.
right? You're a new person, and doesn't mean we don't do bad stuff sometimes or mess up really big time, but like, the more you're mature um in that faith, you should be, you know going for more positive things, right? So like, I don't feel like I've anything left out like, oh man, I wish I could talk about this. In fact, I'm actually doing a pretty dark song right now about nostalgia,
Mhm.
and like, some this might, turn off some of, like, a Christian audience, right? But like, it's, if you look at the Psalms of David or anything like that, like this guy, he was depressed sometimes and longing for, like the good old days, right? I don't think, that's wrong. I think it's wrong to like dwell there forever.
Mhm.
And I think, expressing how you feel and how you long for that past, but realize, hey, you need to look forward. Like, it's never like, I'd say stifle me and be like, oh man, I wish I could have talked about that. This is just more like a way of like, how do I have this feeling, how do I, talk about this or sing about this in a way that um, there's some catharsis.
Mhm. Love that. Great stuff. Yeah. That's a great way of thinking about it. And yeah, at the end of the day, we're all human too, right? So we're not perfect and we're not always going to be positive. We're not always going to be negative. That's just the definition of being human, right? So,
Hmm.
good stuff. So yeah, you talked about John Foreman a little bit earlier. That is Alex's pick of the week. It's John Foreman, the song other than his own that we're going to be featuring tonight, and it's called "I Propose a Toast." Why'd you pick this song?
I just really, it's a brand new song as of like May of 2024, but it's just a great song that you can sing like at any point of life where it's talking about the bittersweet. Um, really enjoying your friendships with others, but knowing nothing lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
But enjoying those moments and being present in those moments. So you can sing about that pretty much any time and be thankful.
Love that, and we'll be featuring that song after the song that Alex has come on tonight to talk about, which is called "Remember Me." This is basically about Alzheimer's, right? Tell us about this
It
song.
is. It is. So, back when I was, oh, so like this was like 20 years ago. So I was like, 13 or so. We had to, my family had to be caretakers, and live at my grandpa's house for a bit because my grandma passed away. And during that time, he was diagnosed with, not necessarily Alzheimer's, but I think it was a form of dementia.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, loss of memories, right? And it's very difficult to see someone lose who they are because they don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like for several people, like I've shown it to people, like if they've never gone through Alzheimer's or anyone seeing that they've had Alzheimer's before, they're like, okay, whatever, I don't really get it. But like for the people that have gone through it, they're like, that's me. Like I totally get it. And like they get um there's some I guess the empathy or like, hey, I feel seen. So that's kind of, at first I actually did it more to, thinking about just, hey, how can I put this into words how I felt then. And that, so I was what, 13 at the time, so I was at the piano inside of my grandpa's house, and I started writing a melody which was basically the intro to that song. And I was always kind of like fearful, I guess, of um I guess ridicule of like, oh, like I've never been accused of being a poet before. But I'd always be scared of like, oh, I'm gonna ruin this melody, which I think is really pretty with subpar lyrics. But after that one instance where I had that procedure, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna, seize the day. I'm gonna, the term carpe diem. I just, don't be scared, of failure. I'm gonna start, one of the songs I want to complete. It's always been there. It's been in the back of my head for like 20 years. I'm gonna complete this. I think what came out, I was very, very proud of. And, you know, maybe it's not poetic, and maybe it's, for some people, like, hey, they don't get it. But for me, it was definitely a strong feeling of completion and something I can share with other generations.
I love that, Alex. I appreciate you sharing the song with us. We're going to play it here in a couple minutes. But if people are hearing about you for the first time, what's the best way to support you as an artist, and where can people follow along?
Well, you can check me out on Spotify. I'm not like, hey, begging for listeners or anything like that. This is, if you guys enjoy the music, hey, there's plenty of streaming services like YouTube Music, Apple Music, Spotify, that you guys can check it out, and hopefully you enjoy what you hear.
All right, awesome, man. I appreciate you coming by and hanging out with us tonight. And We'll get into the music. I'll check you later, and I'll reach back out via email afterwards. I have something I want to show you that I think might help you out, and yeah, so I'll be in touch.
All right.
All right,
Well,
man.
awesome.
You have a great rest of your night, Alex. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Yep, you too. Thanks for having me.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys. Yeah, that was Alex O'Brien of Meeting of the Mimes hanging out with us tonight. Again, we're going to start playing our music here in a little while. I just want to let you guys know that I do have a storm going on around me. We are live right now. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube later on, obviously that's not live. But we are live with this show every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We typically try to be live on Twitch, TikTok, and Facebook. You can find us pretty much on all three just by searching The Boston Chris Show. If you are watching this on YouTube and you're here just for the interview, and you'd like to see the entire show, all the songs, the recap, all of that, you can click that down in the link below. But without any further ado, we're going to get into the music, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. The first song you're going to hear is Remember Me by Meeting of the Mimes.